Hello, welcome to Diary of a Creator. I am Victoria, the Soul Led Career Coach, and this is a channel for ambitious, freedom seeking souls like me who refuse to settle for the ordinary. So, if you are feeling stuck in a career or life that no longer fits, you're starting to question your path and you're craving something more freedom, more alignment, more joy, then you are in the right place. And if my content resonates, I would love it if you could like, share, subscribe, follow. It just helps me to reach more souls who need this message. It has been quite a period of an inner journey for me at the moment, or has been, and I'm coming out of it. I feel called to share a lot of what has transpired and key points of awareness that have come through the experience of January. And I don't know about you, if you're been shedding and having a lot of your prior patterns come up that are not serving. I certainly have, and that is what I have been going through. I wanted to call this episode, they call it Selling Your Soul for Money for a reason, because I have been acutely reminded of this through January. I have actually been out of corporate for just over 2 years now. It's really been that long that I had honestly forgot what that feeling was. That feeling of being totally soul drained. When I get soul drained, I get incredibly frustrated and quite emotional. I can cry through the frustration because it's like I can't get through. It's when the things is almost too mental. Until this month, I have gone back out of alignment, but I needed to. I really needed to. And this is the other thing I will say is trust the diversions out of your alignment, because they're going to give you something that is going to propel your journey forward once you come out of it. And so when I jumped out of corporate, I drove straight into my business, a very typical move that I do, which is just very bold cliff jumps, and I just go. What I was creating at that time was a very typical move of the spiritual ego, where there was almost a bit of a naivety that I would go out and things would just appear and work, which they didn't, which is part of the journey as well. And my nervous system had a freak out, and I'm talking about finances here. This was a year and a half to 2 years ago, where I had a big burnout, where I had almost dwindled my money, and I didn't come from that kind of space. That's not an issue that I have ever encountered in my life. I came from a very high salary, and then I invested it all into things that, not all of it was in service. And I know this now. I got to that point and took a step back. I decided that the level of stress from not having financial support and trying to do things full time was a bit too much for me. It's not the same for everyone, but it was for me. I decided at that time to find a part-time income source, which is what I did. I would leave the rest of my time for building the business. I would move slower, brick by brick, but I would have that foundation and stability. As I said, not everyone is like that. I certainly needed it, and it helped because you alleviate that energy. And that has allowed me to build brick by brick, mainly build the person that I needed to be able to hold and deliver what I'm actually here to do. So my vision and my way has almost not changed, but I've changed. I am now the person that can actually deliver and embody and speak to what I do, which the spiritual ego, when you come into this, is probably just all coming from here and an understanding of what you are teaching, but you haven't actually gone through enough tests. And money was my biggest test, a test on trust. And so I decided to go into part-time work. Every opportunity that came my way was, dare I say, manifested. It was all in flow. Everything that came to me came in flow. The moment I tried to force it, it didn't. And that's a topic for another episode, because I'm kind of going off tangent a little bit here. But I started using energy to manifest opportunities, and it happened. It was coming through with ease because that was my intention. I never wanted an income source that was going to be anything but that, because I had to have my energy in my purpose and my business. And so that was working well for ages, and it got to a time where I probably had pulled back a little bit from the business, because I had found one contract that was just paying very well for not very many hours, and I was like, And then that fell through in divine timing because I was like, yep, I know, I've got to get back to the business. So in that time, when I was kind of in between, I built my course and I kicked off the beta round of running that course last year. That is a course that I am about to launch. I will send the details in the end of this episode. That fell through because it was diverting me at the time. And this is the thing about the soul-led journey. Anything that is diverting you away from it is slowly, eventually, over time, going to fall off. If you don't do it, it's going to fall off anyway. And so that was all fine, but I had booked a trip to Europe, quite a big trip. There was a lot of birthdays, birthdays, lots of stuff. I was kind of resistant to going because none of it was for me. And I was like, where am I going to get this money from? So anyway, I had that trip coming. I'm like, well, I need the income to come back for that. This is a beta run. I need the space to fully be in this, and it's not going to sustain me financially at this point in time. So I went back to a technique that I use in my new moon circles. It's very powerful. And just off the cuff, like kind of randomly, in one of my circles in Bali, we did this ritual, and I was like, well, I've done this before with that. Let's do it. All three of us were focusing on finances. I put in an exact dollar amount that I needed. 3 days later, I got that. And so that was very ease and flow. This is the part-time role that I have been in. I'm not in there anymore, which is where I'm coming, since July. It was really working for me. It was only 22 hours. I had the balance. It paid for all of my vino tintos through Spain and all of that. It really was working. It was a stable flow that enabled me to build what I'm here to build. But then there came a point in time where it stopped working for me. And that was around about December, where we started coming into a very heavy delivery period. And I've got to say, I've worked in consultancies, but this company, and it was a not-for-profit, it's literally the most toxic environment of people I've ever encountered. I wasn't really in the firing line, or I had this real distance about it, which it didn't impact me until this point. But then we started coming into this really heavy delivery period. It was very heavy mental work. Like, I can do data, I can do tech, but oh my God, I'm a big picture person. I love strategy. The honest truth is I actually loved a lot of what I did in corporate. It's just the dynamics of corporate, which is where this is going, because they were toxic. Anyway, I still made the decision. I made the choice. I was working in a team at the time that I was going to up my hours and commit to delivering this project, which is what I did. So it was a conscious choice. I kind of knew at the time, not fully aligned, definitely taking me away from building my business. And I have got the lessons on that, which means that I was definitely meant to do this. But basically, it got really toxic. The most important thing I noticed, and this was through January, where the hours had really upped, and the work in particular, the work was very detailed and not actually suited to my gifts and genius. I can do it. It doesn't mean that I should do it. And that is a key one when you're picking what you are aligned with. Just because you can does not mean that you should. So I should never build entire tech platforms. In fact, I'd never done it before, but I've got a data brain. I don't like it. It's very draining to me. And all the people dynamics and everything. I could quite literally feel my soul vacating my body when I was on the laptop. Like, literal soul suck. I found myself crying often at frustration at the laptop, in part because it was the wrong work for me, and two, because of the dynamics of the people. I just was like, oh, holy shit, I literally forgot what this felt like. Because I have felt this before, not in every project in corporate, but the ones that are just so draining to the soul. I wasn't even actually working that many hours. I could easily put in 40 hours into my business and I will not feel drained. This was like, 1 week it was 28 hours and I was like, I'm dead. And I was dead for the rest of the week because it is totally unaligned work. It is what they say, selling your soul to get money, because that was all I was focused on. There was nothing about me that needed to put on my resume. I've worked in a role I wasn't even qualified for and I did it. So I made the mistake of doing that. Well, not actually, I want to rephrase that, because this isn't a mistake. This is the best lesson and fuel to my fire to come back in. Because I'll be honest, I had lost a little bit of mojo with what I've been doing, particularly online. I've found it very, up until this point, very lacking reciprocity. A lot of putting energy out and not really getting anything back. When I had this part-time role, I was like, should I just do this? Until I had this soul suck, and I went in and I was like, no, this is why I've got bigger whys about waking up the planet and getting women out of these environments, because the feminine energy in these types of environments like toxicity is really not good. And I have a very sensitive field. It is hard to describe to people, but the moment I left this, which I did when I was guided to, my ego wanted to hold on to the money, and I was like, you just cannot. I got sick. And this always happens to me. I've had a very intense family week with a lot of tension. My body will just naturally get very sick after. It's just what it does. And I knew why I cannot operate in that anymore. It was also interesting to watch the people working there, where one of them was at a nervous breakdown point, working 70 hours, and still he wouldn't leave until he had found another income source. And I get it. I understand that fear. It's not necessarily one that I've ever had. I've leaped out of so many things. Money's never been my driver. But you look at the dynamic and what people are willing to tolerate for financial stability. The moment I let this go, I have had to really recover. This has only been a week. I left a week ago. I have had the most incredible momentum with my face-to-face work. It's almost just gone from no reciprocity to boom. And I can't help but tie it to the fact that when we do these things, when we do these soul calls and we listen, even though logically it's like, why would you leave a financial source when you, like, why would you do that? Because you don't know what's on the other side. Like, it's almost, I don't want to use the word reward, but it's just when we come back into the soul and we truly start listening, even though we're afraid of it, alignment's going to bring through a lot more for us than staying somewhere that's not in service. I think for a lot of women who are in these positions where they genuinely feel that what they are doing is like sucking their soul out. And I will say it can feel intense, or it can just be this slow whittling out of your soul light, like a dulling of your creative energy, particularly if you work in logic fields, which is what this was. It was like building a tech platform, which I never ever want to do again. Pay attention, because if you are in this position, if you are in a place that's not fulfilling you, it might even just be a slight feeling of that drain. Over time, that's going to compound, and it might not be this massive pain point right now, but the issue is it almost dulls your ability to recognize that it is a pain point, because it becomes normal. It becomes normal to be in hyper stress. And I don't really know if it was ever normal for me, because I used to get sick a lot in London, like probably 5-6 times annually. I was a party girl though too, so I can't fully blame that on, I just did not listen to my body. Whereas now I go into it and it's pretty immediate that I can't stay in these environments. They just don't work. But there will be women that are holding on because of that, because it doesn't feel too bad. I guess it depends on what the focus is. And then there's the really loud pain point leading into a burnout or just a drain. These are important signs of alignment, your energy, particularly for women. If you are finding, when I go through heightened stress periods, my hormones go all kinds of whack. It can be stress from the family week I had, hormones went nuts. This time, hormones went nuts. Your body is going to tell you that you are out of alignment, and it's going to do that through hormones for women in particular, moods, energy levels. Like, that one is the biggest one. And I think if you can actually get in tune with what radiates your energy and what is draining it, sit in reflection on that. And you need to up what radiates and cut off what's draining. Because if we spend too much in the drain, and I'm not saying there's not going to be any drain, because I still have to do taxes and like I don't want to do that. So I'm not in this fantasy of only do what radiates. It is a balance. And if you are feeling depleted, frustrated, stressed, burnt out, you are spending too much time in what drains you. It's not even really about the time commitment, because if you were to read a novel for however long, 6 hours, would you be drained? Or is it just because it's what you're doing? And that was the biggest thing I noticed this time. And I guess coming into this more aware than I was when I was just stuck in it. I was just seeing it happen and watching other people, and I can see how people are trapped. I understand why the system traps people, because the fear of losing stability will make people put up with things that are just not healthy. They are not healthy. And there's like a fear that there won't be anything to catch you or to hold you, or another opportunity to come. But I'll tell you, every cliff dive I've taken, the first one I did, because I just do them, and I guess the point is not expecting anything on the other side. But I remember when I was 26 and I got back from Europe and I didn't want to live in Sydney anymore and I wanted to go backpacking to South America. I was like, well, I'm just going to move home to the Gold Coast with my parents and I'm just going to work at a bar, don't really care. So I was going to leave my career. Bar wages probably terrible, but I was like, whatever, I don't care. So I quit without anything, and they're like, oh, you don't have anything? People always find that kind of weird. And I'm like, I'm probably not the normal one. But I did it anyway, and 2 days later, literally 2 days later, I got a call from an organisation on the Gold Coast, the only one doing what I am qualified to do, aka can be paid more for, operating out of the Gold Coast, but actually servicing Papua New Guinea and Fiji. And 2 days later, I get that job. Like, what? This is the stuff where when you take these leaps that are actually healthy for you, they are about serving your soul and your heart, you will be surprised by what picks up the moment you let go of what is not serving you. And please do not take this as me saying, quit your job now. If you really feel to do that, then do that. We need the nervous system awareness as well. In order to bring forward the new and the new opportunities and the new finance or support, you need to let go of the old. It's almost like the more you spend your energy and space in trying to hold something that is not for you, just for the sake of security, you're actually blocking out what could come in for you that is more supportive and more at ease. And so as I said, I was always manifesting part-time money. That was ease, but also aligned. Until this very last point, everything I was working on was quite aligned. I actually got quite excited by one of them. I was working on AI go-to-market, a startup and strategy and all of that. But none of that all of that came from a total and complete surrender. It wasn't me holding on to something. It was me I'm in the unknown here. I've got no clue how this is going to work. And then it appeared, basically. It's not basic, it's energetics. And if you want a taste of that, I do the New Moon Circle every month. This one's going to be really big. It's on the 17th of February. This is the energy to be putting in your desires and putting energy into that as well. A big part of moving towards your desires and creating from your heart is letting go. If you are in that soul suck, there is better. No one deserves to be in that soul suck. It is designed to keep us away from ourselves and our creativity. And you have no idea of your potential and your ability because you're probably too tired. Your soul's just had to vacate just to survive. And if I hadn't got that reminder in January, because we are very pain point driven, you need to be aware of that. My pain point for business was quite loud, which is why I did the duck back. And then I got this pain point on selling my soul for money for a temporary period of time. I was like, right, that one is way worse. Barrel of the barrel for me. And I needed that fire, and so my fire's back, and I am determined, like, I would never go back to that. But if you're in the shed as well, whatever you've passed through in the past couple months, even up until the 17th, so that new moon, trust that it's bringing up those last bits of patterns that do not serve you and decisions that come out of fear. But please don't make yourself feel bad for making decisions out of fear. Like, I'm not going to make myself feel bad for momentarily choosing money over purpose. I don't regret it. It has literally shone such a light on things. But now it's time to come back into alignment. And if you want to know when you're in alignment, you'll be radiating. You won't be drained. It is the quickest way to find. And that can be people and environments too. Like, do they drain me or do they give me energy? If they drain you, they're not aligned. It's really like, it is actually as simple as that. So I'm going to share the link to the New Moon Circle. If you are really wanting to light a fire under your choices, if it is financial, go for it. I promise you this one works. It's worked twice for me now. And this is probably why I have enough trust to just leap these days, because I know it's going to come. I will also put the link for my course, which is coming up for those that are really in that soul suck and that void. You know that there's something else in you. This is about bringing that vision out into your awareness and creating what you actually truly want. And then following that, there's a community, which is like, how do you actually start building that? But the first part is, what is that vision? What is that true north? Because it is not selling yourself for money. It is the opposite. And so I will leave it there.